If I ask you right now what telehealth is, you'll have an idea about what it is. You might have an image in your head, but you won't be able to define it or quantify it exactly. So let me ask you another question. How many of you have woken up one day with a few cough symptoms or flu symptoms, and you went ahead and you Googled these symptoms online? You might have stumbled across WebMD or similar websites. Now another question. How many of you have used Fitbits or Apple Watches to record the amount of steps you take in a day? How many of you have tracked this and actually measured this? You might be thinking, yeah, I've done both these things because it's such an important part of our lives and it is something many of us do. And by doing these things, technically, we're all taking advantage of telehealth. And the fact that you're using telehealth without even knowing what it is exactly the reason why it's so important to our future. And it shows how quickly telehealth is developed as an industry in today's world. So now let's break down into what telehealth really is. So what is telehealth? Well, to put it simply, telehealth is a continuously evolving field of healthcare, which is why providing a specific definition for it can be quite difficult. Even the WHO definition is quite vague. However, for the purpose of this presentation, telehealth will be classified as the usage of technology and telecommunication to provide aspects of healthcare. Now, even this definition is really vague, so let's break it down a little. Telehealth can be broken down into two major aspects, telecare and telemedicine. Telecare is the use of monitoring devices such as wearables, Apple Watches, Fitbits, this lot of them, and then using these monitoring devices and sending over the information from these devices to a specialist, to a doctor, to a nurse, or even, as I'll explain later on, to some AI. Telemedicine, on the other hand, is something that people would be more familiar with. Telemedicine involves the diagnosis and evaluation of symptoms. So perhaps you wake up with a cough, you get on a call with a doctor, you tell them your symptoms, they give you a diagnosis and evaluation. That is telemedicine. And both of these make up and comprise what telehealth really is. So now that the basic understanding of telehealth has been developed, let's look into the evolution of telehealth. So obviously telehealth has improved, and like I said, it's a continuously evolving field. This is just the beginning almost of what telehealth will expand into in our future, which is why it's so exciting, and it's just as important to look at what telehealth was and how it's developed. So telehealth is an industry that is highly dependent on other industries in order for its functionality, especially technology. As technology gets better, the ability of telehealth to be more efficient, to be of higher quality, also increases significantly. So as our technology and also as the access to technology worldwide has improved, the ability of telehealth to reach more lives at a proper quality has improved as well. The same goes for legal issues and legalities. Because telehealth is such a new aspect to many people, many countries may not have telehealth regulations in place. Many insurance companies may not have integrated it into their plans. And more so, as laws become more flexible and as laws becomes more adapted to telehealth industry is able to blossom and attract more customers as well. And again, it comes back to demographics as well. As we know, in today's world, there's a huge disparity between some people who really like using technology and some people who may not be as technologically savvy. So as our society goes through the demographic transition model, more people are keen on using technology in their day-to-day lives, meaning that telehealth becomes even more important. So now let's talk about the healthcare system today. You want to book a standard checkup. How does it work? Obviously, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hop on a phone. You're going to call your hospital. You're going to call your doctor, ask for an appointment, check when they're free. Or you're going to go on a phone, or you're going to go on the computer and book an appointment. Or maybe you'll call up the hospital and you'll have that annoying waiting music for at least 10-20 minutes. And they'll just say there'll be a minute, but they never really are a minute, are they? And then you'll make it to the hospital, you'll make it to your doctor, whether you take a car, whether you take public transport, you're going to be spending money, you're going to be spending time, perhaps you'll take an off day from work, perhaps you'll take a half day, and this all takes time. And then you're going to sit in the waiting room. They say it'll be 20 minutes. It's always an hour because they take way longer than they should. And then after that, you're going to get into the doctor's room. You're going to tell them everything. You're going to get your diagnosis. They're going to prescribe you some medicine. And then you're going to find out you have to go to off-site for your medicine. So then you go all the way down there. Then you go back You go back, you claim your insurance, you pay for everything, then you go back home. And as you can see, this process is so long, I can't even fit it onto one slide. And that's exactly why telehealth is so important. Telehealth fixes all these problems. It's so convenient, and as I'll explain later, it solves three important problems in our current healthcare system. Telehealth solves three major problems, which is about the problem of being expensive, inconvenient, and inaccessible. So the first problem is that healthcare currently is quite expensive. So to put this in a perspective for you, if employers in the United States of America switch to telehealth instead of the normal healthcare programs, they would save over $6 billion in total. That's almost the GDP of Fiji. And then a normal healthcare setup a normal healthcare consultation or meeting costs $120 on average, whereas a normal telehealth meeting costs $40 on average, showing the huge disparity between costs, which is almost 3 times. And then we come into telehealth being extremely convenient. Are you in bed, you're not feeling well, you don't want to make the drive down to the doctors, and you have some symptoms, you can simply hop onto apps or videos or any of the variety of telehealth mediums, and you can tell your doctor your symptoms, and you can immediately get a diagnosis then and there. Moreover, this is so helpful for senior citizens. Senior citizens are often not able to travel to places on their own, especially if they live further away from hospitals. It is highly inconvenient for them. And if they only need to go to hand over some information or hand over some data, simply having telehealth devices and utilizing telecare by simply having a wearable and reporting their data or their blood pressure or their heartbeat to doctors remotely and getting a diagnosis from that saves them so much time, saves them so much money, and it's so convenient for them. And nextly, healthcare can be really inaccessible in today's day and age. For example, in the United States of America, there are 100,000 people to the ratio of 43 specialist doctors in more rural areas. This is a ratio of almost one specialist doctor to 2,326 people. That's really small. And that just shows that there is inaccessibility to specialized healthcare when needed by people in rural areas. But at the same time, it is very important to ensure that some people in these rural areas do not have access to the correct technology or the correct Wi-Fi. And by implementing telehealth, it might cause disparity between people who do have access to this Wi-Fi technology and the people in rural areas who don't. And this is an important consideration of telehealth that I'll talk about in the end. So now let's talk about the future. I've talked about what the healthcare system is about today. I've talked about the past, and I've talked about what telehealth is doing for us today. So let's talk about the future. As you can see, I've laid it out in 3 separate pillars, and these pillars are all holding up one concept that I will get to in the last slide. So what are these 3 pillars? So the first pillar is applications. In today's age, you can download a variety, there's almost a myriad, there are a plethora of telehealth applications. Whether you want a subscription program where you pay a set amount a year for unlimited meetings, or you want a telehealth app where you can read your doctor's reviews, their specializations, their education, and choose according to that. That's available for you as well. Or if you want an emergency meeting, you can find the first available doctor. Applications like that are available too. Not just this, applications made by insurance companies are also available, meaning that you don't have to worry about not being covered by insurance because your insurance company is giving you access to telehealth. The future of telehealth is in these applications because they're all trying to compete to make it easier for you, make telehealth more accessible and make it more easy for you. And next we have wearables. So you all might be thinking, yeah, I have a wearable. I've used it to measure the steps I run at ECP or anywhere else around the world. But these wearables have come a long way. For example, I really like focusing on the Apple Watch for this. The Apple Watch had a 74% accurate measurement rate for people with irregular heartbeats. This is Apple. They're not a health company. They aren't a company that has significant holdings in health companies. This is a technology company that has been able to develop their technology so well that they are able to measure these things with such high accuracies of 74%. This was part of a study conducted by a university in the United States. So these wearables also open up the room for telecare. If you have heart problems, if you have blood pressure problems or blood sugar problems, you can simply use these wearables to measure this data and send this over to your doctors, to the nurses, to AI, and get an analysis from that without having to go there, measure your heartbeat there, measure your blood pressure there. This makes it so much easier for everyone around the world. And as these companies further focus on developing these products, it will become even more high quality and of higher efficiency. And next we come into software and AI. This is really interesting. I think this is my favorite part of it altogether. So many companies are developing these AIs that are able to predict a certain patient's problem or condition based on their symptoms. You fill in very specific information about what your symptoms are, where it's located, and these AIs are able to take all this information and analyze it, cross-check it across various other sources of information, and provide you with a diagnosis. Furthermore, this AI can also be used to monitor your health problems, monitor your blood sugar, monitor your heart rate, monitor your blood sugar, blood pressure, all these type of things. And from that, they can make a proper evaluation based on how you're doing. If there's a problem, that AI can simply alert a doctor and they can alert you. This makes it so much easier, and not to mention so much faster to get a diagnosis and get your healthcare information checked. So what are the three pillars holding up? I think that the three pillars are holding up convenience. Now, many people think that cost plays a major part in healthcare, but I believe that in an industry like healthcare, cost is something that people will always be willing to give. Cost is not always an issue for people. Of course, it is truly tragic that there are many, many people around the world who are not able to afford healthcare, afford proper healthcare, and telehealth does provide a solution for that. But for so many other people around the world, cost can also be compatible with convenience. Many people are buying into convenience now. Why do we use Gmail instead of Yahoo? Do we see sign in with Yahoo and every other website? No, we see sign in with Gmail. Why is Apple doing so well? Because they have Apple AirPods, they have iPhones, they have MacBooks that just connect so seamlessly. It's so convenient. And that's why I think people are now switching into convenience. Convenience is becoming, people are willing to pay a bit extra for convenience. They're willing to pay that much more in order for them to have to do less work. And that's exactly what telehealth is providing. Telehealth is giving people around the world a convenient, inexpensive, and accessible access to healthcare. And this quality of healthcare is almost the exact same as you would get in a real life situation. Even dermatologists around the world are saying that 90% of their job can be done on a video call. They don't need to be face-to-face all the time. And this is going to drastically change the healthcare industry in the future. So the conclusion, as we go through a pandemic right now in the COVID-19 era, we'll see COVID-19 be almost a catalyst for the change and implementation of telehealth. And this is going to be a very significant aspect of the future, because COVID-19 is making people realize that maybe going to the hospital is not the best method, and maybe going to the hospital isn't the safest method. And that's why telehealth is going to play a major part in the future, because as our society realizes today that there is an easier, much cheaper and accessible solution out there, telehealth will start becoming part of the future. But at the same time, there are resistance to changes. Legal issues need to be solved, cross-country, cross-state laws need to be solved, and also there will always be the problem of causing a disparity. Some people may not have access to Wi-Fi, and is it fair that they don't have access to telehealth because they don't have the technology? It's cheap, it's affordable, why shouldn't they have access to it? That's why it's important, and there are lots of different factors that need to come into place in order for telehealth to become part of the future. But as our society grows and as we move away from this COVID-19 era, our society will realize how important telehealth is, and for that reason, it will become a major part of our future. Thank you.